Okay, so then you saw the Giants as well,
Mhm.
which means you were there just after Daniel Jones
Yeah.
had his dreadful appearance. It
Mhm.
wasn't all. I mean, listen, there's always ups and downs, but throwing that pick six, it was just wow. Like, is that what we're
Mhm.
going to see from him this year? What did you glean from Dayball and the Giants when you saw them
Yeah,
this
well,
week?
well, first of all, no one sugarcoated that play. Like that play was not a good play. No
Right.
one was saying that, like it was anything but what it looked like. So that's number one. I do think there's a couple things to consider with Daniel Jones, though. He's only 9 months post-op, and so like that's like he's back, but like there's still some things that you're working through when you're at that point in the recovery. They say it takes a full year. So, they're trying to accelerate him and ramp him up and get him ready for the season, but there's that part of it. And there's another part of it that I don't know that this has been out there quite as much, but I thought it was interesting too. And I think this is always interesting when you're talking about how to assess how guys are playing in training camp. Brian Daboll is trying to coach him to be more aggressive, and they want him to be more aggressive. And part of that is the presence of Malik Neighbors, in his receiver group now. But they want him to take chances. They want him to test himself. And if you're going to do that, right? Like if you're going to get yourself ready to play in the regular season that way, well, then you're going to have to live through mistakes in training camp. You're going to have to live through mistakes in preseason games. That's the only way you're going to figure out how to be more aggressive. So, as they've really coached him on trying to become more aggressive, mistakes have come, and a lot of good things have come too. And I think it's just sort of that's part of the thing that like part of the problem I have with all these aggregation accounts on Twitter and everything else, Rich, is like they take single plays or a group of three plays and like act as if like the season's over or the season's made, right? And like the reality is, we can't climb in every one of these guys' heads, and every one of these guys has different goals for training camp. Now with the guy who's trying to make the team, we know what he's trying to do, right? Like, so if you're a rookie or you're a third year guy who someone's been drafted to replace you, like you don't have room to make mistakes. Like you have to put your best foot forward, and it should look good every day. If you're a veteran and your coach is telling you, no, we want you to do this. It's like when I saw Brock Purdy. It was the same thing with him in San Francisco. He threw 4 picks the day I was there, and he explained to me after, he's like, I'm trying to test my limits. It's like we don't know what the individual goals each of these guys have for every practice is. We don't know what the individual goals these guys have for the preseason games are. So a lot of times what you see on the surface isn't what it appears to be. And so, it takes talking to these guys and, like I think that's really a huge part of our job is talking to these guys and figuring out what they're trying to accomplish. And there are times when they'll say, no, that was just stupid. I shouldn't have done that. But there are other times where it's like, I wanted to see if I could make that throw. And it's a big part of training camp. And I know it's been part of Daniel Jones' training camp. Again, I'm not saying he's going to be all pro or anything like that, but I think there is part of it that relates to the injury that's, hampered his performance a little bit. And then there is, an element of testing himself in different ways where I think you'll see some of the things that you saw in camp erased in that regard.
Dayball going to call the plays? Is he going to do it?
Yeah, it sounds like it. And
Okay.
I think what's interesting about that too is the primary area where they need a fix is the same as the Jets, right? It's the offensive line. Everybody saw that in the Hard Knock series, and that's a big piece of that was a big piece of their offseason, obviously, adding Greg Van Roten and Jermaine Illuminor and John Runyon to their offensive line, right? Like, and now we'll see what they can get out of Evan Neal. Well, another big piece of that was going and hiring Carmen Bracillo as their offensive line coach. And this is an under the radar hire, but it's an important one because Carmen Bracillo has New England background. He coached for Bill Belichick. He coached for Josh McDaniels in Vegas. His background is Brian Daboll's background. And so, like, they feel like they're going to be able to kind of streamline the offense a little bit and bring it back to what Brian Daboll knows best and what Brian Daboll has done best over the years. And that's always allowed Daboll to get the most out of the players that he's with. And so I'm interested to see how this whole thing comes together. But, after a couple of years ago, we heard all about how like Daboll had gone outside his coaching tree to hire Mike Kafka, who's fantastic, and hire Wink Martindale and go all over the place to find all of these guys. You look at some of the hires he made this offseason, right?
Yes.
And they have similar background to him, right? Carmen Bracillo is one. Shane Bowen, their new defensive coordinator, is another. He came under Mike Vrabel, who, of course, is another guy with Patriot background. So it's sort of interesting that way and how they've set that up.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.